Hey YouTube, how are we? My name is Mike Mitchelson, part of the WNP podcast. Unfortunately, this episode is not a podcast, but rather just a normal YouTube video. So this is the first time we are doing a YouTube video. Well, I guess that's kind of weird because we do podcasts and we post them as YouTube videos, but I guess this is our first just purely YouTube video. This isn't going to any of the streaming podcast platforms or anything like that. But today, we're going to be talking about some college football. And the reason we're doing a YouTube video rather than a full-on podcast is I am solo dolo for today. Chase Crawshaw, my co-host, not able to make it, dealing with some family matters. And I'm sure that if you want to keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers and even send him some words of encouragement on Twitter at Chawdust, he would be very appreciative of that. So, and I would too. So thank you very much. But anyways, on this episode, we're going to be talking about college football. I'm absolutely amped for the season. It is currently Thursday, and tonight we've got two games, Oklahoma State versus Central Michigan, Pittsburgh versus West Virginia, and that matchup features two former QB1s at USC. Very excited to see that matchup. Even though I'm not sure if it's going to be like great football, it's still got the storylines that I'm looking for. So we are going to be talking about my top three storylines coming into the season. Very excited for three things specifically, and we'll talk about that. I've got some opinions from Chase as well that I'll put into the episode, and then also going to be doing three players that I'm most excited to watch this year as well. So we're going to hop right into it. No time to waste. I'm thinking this episode probably 15, 20 minutes. Not going to take too much of your time, but let's start with the Big Ten and who is going to be the Big Ten champs, as Ohio State has ruled the Big Ten for many, many years. The last team to usurp them as the Big Ten champs prior to last year was Penn State back in 2016. But from that point until last year, it was all Ohio State. Last year, it was Michigan, as Michigan took down Ohio State, went on to win the Big Ten championship, went to the college football playoffs, did not perform very well there, but they did make it nonetheless. So I want to talk about the Big Ten championships and who is going to be the dominant force in the Big Ten this year. I would love to say it's my Michigan State Spartans. I really would. I've got a Sparty hat or a Sparty helmet right down there, but I don't think that's going to be the case. They had a great year last year, but Kenneth Walker, one of the big reasons for that, losing Jalen Nailor, and Mel Tucker not really being able to bring in his whole crop of players quite yet, has me looking at maybe an 8 to 9 win season. It's not going to be similar to last year where we might be, flirting with the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Also, I'd love to talk about Wisconsin and Penn State, but I'm not going to, because I honestly think that the Big Ten is a two-man race right now. It is between the Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Chase, he did tell me that he wants you people to know, right there in the camera, he wants you guys to know that the Michigan Wolverines will go 12-1 with a conference championship and another playoff appearance. So that is Chase's hot take. Love to see it out of him, but it might be a little biased as he's a Michigan Wolverines fan. Michigan, very talented team. We're going to see a lot of players back, such as Andrel Anthony, who is a redshirt freshman this year. We saw a sneak peek of him in the Michigan State game where he lit up my Spartans in the first half. We're also going to see Blake Corum return, who's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then at quarterback, we're kind of up in the air right now. We've got Cade McNamara starting game 1 against Colorado State. You got J.J. McCarthy starting game 2 against Hawaii. Very interesting plan by Jim Harbaugh to go one quarterback, one game, another quarterback the next. And then game 3, we just have no idea who's going to be the quarterback right now. So he is planning on being able to tell between those two games on who is the guy. My only question is, how can you not tell right now? Me personally, if I'm looking for upside, I'm going J.J. McCarthy, Cade McNamara, a very safe floor. But when you're looking at Ohio State's roster, I feel like you got to go for the upside. You got to go for the ceiling here. Another big question plaguing this Michigan team is who's going to step up on the defensive side of the ball. You had Aiden Hutchinson, who happened to be the second overall pick to the Detroit Lions last year. You had David Ojabo, who stepped up immensely during the regular season as well. He got drafted in the second round. Who is going to be that dominant force on this defense? Some may look at Mike Morris, the senior, as he is going to have a lot of play time. He's going to have a big role. Just, does he have the talent? Does he have the ability to be able to be that next guy? That's the big question over here at Michigan. Now, when we look at Ohio State, the other team, man, this is a really good team. And me personally, if I was a voter when it comes to, the top 25, this would be my number one team. Defense, solid. You're looking at some good players like Teron Vincent, the redshirt senior. He's coming back. Love the name Steel Chambers. Going to be excited to see him play at the will linebacker spot. But really, the shining star of this Ohio State team is that offense. C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got Julian Fleming, who is the number one rated wide receiver out of his class, who has not yet to break out. I'm really hoping that there could be a chance this year. And then, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr., the redshirt freshman, who has absolutely beefed up from the last time we saw him. Going to be very excited to see all of these players and what they can truly do. I think this could be an all-time offense. Last year, we saw an all-time defense with that Georgia Bulldogs defense. This very well could be the best offense we've seen in quite some time, even better than that LSU offense we saw with Joe Burrow. Now, that could get some hot takes. That could be a hot take. That could get some flack, I should say. But they have all of the talent in the world, and it's going to be very exciting to see. That being said, who am I going between Michigan and Ohio State? Right now, it's pretty obvious for me. I'm going Ohio State. I very well think this team could go undefeated. 14-0. They see a Big Ten championship. They see a national championship. That's how talented this offense is. That's how talented the team overall is. Ryan Day, he's really proven that he is not just the leftovers of Urban Meyer. He's not a guy who's just coming in and succeeding just purely based off of Urban Meyer. He has proven himself in my eyes. So I'm going Ohio State big there. I think Michigan going to be a solid contender, but it's going to be just like prior years, aside from 2021, where we see Ohio State dominate. Let's now talk about the second big storyline I'm excited to watch, and that's the SEC championship. Now, Alabama has absolutely dominated the SEC for near 2 decades now, and they yet again won the SEC championship last year. However, Georgia got the last laugh as Georgia defeated the SEC champs in Alabama during the national championship. So I'm excited to see what team here can take that next step, can be that number one team in the SEC. Personally, I think right now going into the season, not saying my projection, but who should be named the number one right now, I think personally it should be Georgia. They just won the national championship. I know that Bama just won the SEC championship, but I mean, the Natty takes all. And right now I would say that in rankings, Georgia should probably go a little bit higher above Alabama, even though I know they lost so many players in the draft, and we'll continue to talk about that. This is not my prediction. I'm not saying Georgia's going to take the SEC championship. However, I think there's 3 teams that should be really eyeing this number one spot, and that's going to be Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a team that has shocked a lot of people over the past couple of years, including this year as they took home the number 1 recruiting class in college football. Absolutely crazy out of Texas A&M. They're led by Haynes King. They got Devin Achane as their lead back. Devin Achane could be the fastest running back in the world, really. The guy has incredible speed, and he's going to be a burner in the national level. But I do want to talk about how Achane kind of goes into this 2023 draft class and kind of a quick little dynasty stop, because dynasty is something that we absolutely love over here on the WNP podcast, Dynasty Fantasy Football, that is. And me personally, I have 10 2023 first-round picks, so Devin Achane could absolutely be one of those guys that I'm looking at. Other guys, Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I already talked about. Nice wide receiver there. I don't want to get too deep, though, because there is one player that is on my radar to be drafted in Dynasty that is also one of the top players I want to watch when it comes to this year's version of college football. So we'll get into that more. But back onto Texas A&M, I just think they're too young. And could they surprise everyone? Absolutely, they could. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, you've got 6 of their 11 starters with only 2 years out of high school, being either sophomores or freshmen. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it just shows that this team will be there in a couple of years. This year, not quite going to be able to compete with the big dogs like Alabama and Georgia, in my opinion. Let's go over to Georgia now, the national champs, as they lost a lot. They lost their number one weapon in George Pickens. I know George Pickens didn't really play much at all last year, but that's still going to hurt a bit. On the defensive side of the ball, wow, they lost a lot. They're starting 2 defensive tackles. They lost Lewis Cine, a safety. They lost all of their linebackers practically. So there is a lot of holes that they're going to need to fill, but if there's a team outside of Alabama that can do it, it is this Georgia Bulldogs team. When we look at the offense, we see Stetson Bennett returning. Behind him, you got Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton fighting for that number 1 job. Kenny McIntosh has it right now. Kendall Milton, a guy I'm really hoping can have that breakout, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And then I think it's great to look at some of these wide receivers like Ladd McConkey, Kearis Jackson, but the number 1 position to look at, in my opinion, is this tight end room. You got Brock Bowers, who was an absolute stud last year. Played out of his mind as a true freshman. Darnell Washington coming back again. He's 6'7", an absolute towering tight end. Can't wait to see him. And then, in some people's opinions, possibly the best tight end in the league right now is Eric Gilbert, which surprises me a bit that he's getting this much hype, this much praise. But, hey, having those 3 together, that's a deadly unit. And then on the defensive side, you can't not mention Jalen Carter, the number 1 D tackle in the nation right now, a guy that is going to have a huge year, and I'm excited to see what he can do. A lot of people talking about Keely Ringo as well, the corner. Love to see him do well, but there are some question marks that are popping in my head, seeing him as like a top 10 pick right now in mock drafts, because quite a few times last year he's gotten burned. So I'm excited to see what the redshirt sophomore can do, but as of right now, still a lot of question marks there. Let's go now to Alabama, the top dog over these past couple of years in the SEC. Bryce Young, returning Heisman winner. How can you not say that that guy is going to take this team to the promised land? You bring in Jahmyr Gibbs, the junior transfer from Tennessee, an elite playmaking running back. He can make plays out of the backfield by, catching the ball and going downfield or doing really whatever. Jahmyr Gibbs has it all. And then, of course, the biggest name to talk about here is Will Anderson. He is the best player in college football right now. He is the most dominant edge we've seen in a long time. People are saying that he is better than Chase Young, better than Nick Bosa, better than Joey Bosa. Some of these giant names that we've seen come out of college into the NFL and absolutely dominate. Will Anderson is the best, is what some say. So, going to be excited to see him play as well. If I had to make a prediction, though, even though I said I think Georgia should probably be ranked over Alabama right now just because of what they were just able to accomplish, I still got to go Alabama. They have the reigning Heisman winner. They've just got a better offense. It's very simple. The offense is so much better. And then when it comes to the defense, they've got the best player in the world. Now, is it as deep as Georgia? Maybe not, but it very well could be with Georgia losing, 7, 8 of their star players on defense. So I think that Alabama has the slight nod here, and that's who I'm going to take to win the SEC. Finally, let's now talk about 2 teams that Are they back, baby? They might be. That's the Texas Longhorns and the USC Trojans. Excuse me. Very excited to see these two teams play. It's two teams that have phenomenal legacy when it comes to the national landscape. The Texas Longhorns, an elite program. The USC Trojans, elite programs. But over the past decade, not been able to get it done. Is this the year we see both have a nice comeback? With the Texas Longhorns, the big reason we're pushing that, Steve Sarkisian, Bijan Robinson, both guys that we know, we love, and Bijan Robinson's been phenomenal up to this point with Texas. Could be the number one running back in the nation. I personally think he is. I personally think he is the best running back I've seen come out of college in a decade. Yes, that includes Saquon Barkley. And then Quinn Ewers, the Ohio State transfer. He originally committed to Texas, went to Ohio State, grabbed his bag, came back to Texas. He's going to be pairing up with Xavier Worthy. This is going to be a very fun offense to watch. I'm not sure if they're completely back yet. I think they might need a little bit more time. This defense, I don't think, has made enough upgrades to really be a top 20, top 15 type defense in the league, but that's yet to be seen. Now, Chase, he thinks that Texas is all the way back. He's saying that Texas, lock him in for double-digit wins. If you guys want to do any sports betting on that, I'll let you use his bets. I don't know if I'd lock in double-digit wins for Texas, but they've got a lot of talent on offense, and it's going to be a fun team to watch. Then we go to the USC Trojans. They bring over, the best offseason move by far. It's not a quarterback transfer, not a top defensive player transfer. No, it's the best head coach in football. Nick Saban, phenomenal. I guess he does deserve that crown as of right now, but when it comes to guys that have just continued to prove themselves in and out, that's Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley has done phenomenal things. He leaves Oklahoma to come over to USC. He brings along with him Mario Williams, the sophomore the sophomore wide receiver, and then Caleb Williams, the sophomore quarterback. So this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Jordan Addison, the Biletnikoff winner, comes over as well. I think this offense is better than the Texas offense. Now, I would love to see both offenses absolutely firing and doing a lot of damage, but when it just comes to pure talent, I think that USC has the better odds. Defenses are probably pretty similar in my mind. Neither of them are going to be world burners, but when it comes to the coaching and the offenses, these teams are both going to be a lot of fun to watch. If I had to put money on where I think these two teams end up, I think Texas, you're looking that 8 to 9 win range, and then USC, I think 8 to 10 range, maybe even 9 to 10 range. I don't know if their floor is 9 wins, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these two teams, and I think next year they will be back for sure. All right, finally, let's go over 3 players that I am just so ecstatic to watch. These guys are... you'll see. Let's start with the first guy. Let's just go right off the rip. Zach Evans, Ole Miss running back, formerly of TCU. He transfers over. And Zach Evans is a guy who really hasn't had that huge career yet, hasn't had that huge breakout yet. This was a top running back prospect coming out with Bijan Robinson, and just some personal issues, wasn't really able to keep it all together. He lost his chance at Georgia, had to go to TCU. Now he transfers to Ole Miss. Can he get it back? This is a guy who is immensely talented, a little bit immature, but I want to see him continue to grow, continue to develop as a human as well as a football player. And I think this year could be the year we start seeing Zach Evans show up in the first round of mock drafts, because he does have that much talent. Secondly, let's look at Brock Bowers. I've already talked about him a little bit. The true sophomore now, just one of the best tight ends in the league last year, if not the very best. I am so excited to see him continue to perform. And we talked about it here on this show. Before Brock Bowers blew up, before any big news was talking about him, we said, keep an eye on this guy, because we're hearing out of the Georgia camp that Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels both love this kid. He's got the athleticism, he's got the size, he's got the ability, and sure enough, he puts it on full display, 882 yards, 13 touchdowns, was an absolute beast. I think he does cement himself as the very best tight end in the league this year. Takes over, Eric Gilbert, who some are saying, Mike Mayer, going to be taking over all of these guys. Brock Bowers going to be the guy at the tight end position. Finally, I want to look at the number one recruit back in 2020, the Will Anderson recruitment class, and that's Bryan Bresee, the defensive lineman out of Clemson. Bresee, mainly an interior defensive lineman, but he has seen his fair share on the outside, and I'm excited to see what he can do. He got true freshman honors. He looked great in his freshman year, but last year goes down early with an ACL injury, only able to play 4 games. This is a guy that has a lot of talent, has that work ethic, and I cannot wait to see what he can do. Could he be a guy that starts to rival Jalen Carter as the number 1 D tackle in the draft? Could he be a guy that starts to rival Will Anderson as the number 1 defensive lineman in the draft? These are questions that I think Bryan Bresee has the potential to answer. Now, do I think that he will be the number 1 or number 2 defensive lineman drafted? Probably not. I'm thinking Will Anderson and Jalen Carter probably still safe, but Bryan Bresee, a guy I'm very excited to watch because we didn't get the full taste of him last year. So we're going to be very excited to see what he can do this year. All right, I want to make a couple quick predictions here for this week's slate of games. West Virginia and Pittsburgh tonight, Central Michigan, Oklahoma State tonight. Excited to watch those, but we'll start with Friday as Michigan State, my Spartans, go up against the Western Michigan Broncos. Not going to be close. Michigan State slam slam Michigan State covering the 21 spread. It's going to be an absolute dominant appearance for the Michigan State Spartans. Can't wait to see it. Then we move on to Saturday, the 3:30 game between Oregon and Georgia, number 3 versus number 11. Going to be exciting to see what Dan Lanning, the former defensive coordinator of Georgia, has in store for his former team. What are we going to see here? I think we're on upset alert. I'm not going to lie. We are on upset alert for this game. I am, however, still going to take Georgia, but I think Oregon covers the 17-point spread. This is a game that I think is going to be very close. Oregon's a very talented team. Bringing the defensive coordinator of Georgia, that's going to help their case as well. And I don't know. I got to see more out of Stetson Bennett to believe that Georgia can start to blow out teams. Can they stay close? Can they beat really good teams like Alabama? Yes, we saw it last year. But can they blow out teams with Stetson Bennett? That's a big question. So I'm still yet to see that. Finally, only want to do 3 game predictions again, and we're doing the 3-3-3 route. That's Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State, the number 2 team in the country right now. Notre Dame, the number 5 team. The spread is currently Ohio State by 17. I think the spread could be doubled, and Ohio State's still covering. Ohio State with an absolute blowout in this one. I don't think it'll be close. I think Ohio State absolutely pummels Notre Dame. Give me a 45-17 victory, Ohio State. CJ Stroud starts his Heisman campaign. The Ohio State Buckeyes start their national championship campaign. Yes, I'm a Michigan State Spartans fan, and I'm saying this not because I want them to win, but because I'm realistic and because this Ohio State team is going to be deadly. It's going to be scary, folks. That's going to do it for the episode, though. I want to thank you guys so much for coming out. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the description or down in the comments, What teams are you most excited to watch this year? What players are you most excited to watch? Go ahead and put that down in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with what we do and when our next podcast releases, you can do that at WNP Sports Pod on Twitter. That's, again, at WNP Sports Pod on Twitter. I want to thank you guys so much for coming out and giving this one a listen. If you're on YouTube, which you should be, because this isn't going anywhere else, give us a like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to turn on notifications. Thanks so much for stopping by. And as always, we're not professionals.